Today we are going to look at the consequences of World War I on Canada. World War I had many consequences on Canada. It was the first major war Canada was involved in. The main consequences of World War I on Canada was it gave Canada some autonomy from Great Britain. Canada was no longer viewed as just a small colony of Britain, but began to gain independence and its own reputation. After World War I, Canada joined the League of Nations as its own separate country, and was recognized separately from Britain. This was an unintended consequence because until after the war, Canada was not so anxious and ready to handle their own foreign affairs. And because of Canada's contributions to fights such as the Battle of Passchendaele, they realized they should not let the fate of their affairs lie in the hands of another country. Because of Canada's urge for autonomy from Britain, in 1931, Britain passed the Statute of Westminster declaring Canada was free from the British Constitution and gave Canada the right to handle its own affairs. Canadians' independence from Britain was a huge step in Canadian history. The war also helped the growth of Canada as a country, and Canadians felt victory for the first time. This was an intended consequence because Canadian soldiers fought hard in the Battle of Ypres and the Battle of Vimy Ridge, Canada's first big victory. This battle was the first battle Canadian commanders had put into action themselves. This brought Canadians together, and many described the victory as the birth of a nation. If Canada had not won the battle at Vimy Ridge, many of the Allies might have lost hope, and the outcomes of the war might have turned out different. Without these feelings of victory, Canada may not have developed as a nation and continued its growth to independence. But along with bringing Canadians closer, it also tore them apart, such as the 80,000 German, Austrian, Ukrainian, Czech, Polish, and Slovakian immigrants who were now labeled as enemy aliens, and the more than 8,579 of these people who were forced into internment camps that made them do hard labor. This was an intended consequence because the government knew the risks if these people were spies to their homeland. There were 24 internment camps across Canada. This took away many of these people's rights and caused tension between them and the government. Many of these people's churches, businesses, and homes were shut down and vandalized. This not only segregated them, but made their lives after immigration even harder, and tore families apart. Many people still feel very passionate about the suffering their ancestors went through during the war. Without these people being interned, many roads, mines, and national parks such as Banff may not have been made, along with the fact some of them may have been spies who may have ruined the war effort. Some French Canadians also felt tension towards the government wanting to force conscription. Many French people did not feel like they needed to be fighting for Britain and didn't feel the war concerned Canada. This not only caused tension between the French people and the government, but the French and English Canadians who felt the French weren't doing their part. This was an unintended consequence of the war because it was just the difference of loyalty and opinion. Such a large war threw Canada in debt of over $1 million and introduced business and income tax. More losses because of the war included 66,000 who died in World War I, and along with them died the glamour and want to go to war. Many people found out about the harsh living conditions and high casualties, and war was no longer looked at as victorious and heroic as it once was. And many men stopped enlisting. This was an unintentional consequence because as hard as the government tried to keep people interested and excited about fighting, people no longer wanted to be in the harsh conditions of war. World War I had many consequences on Canada, some positive and some negative. Many of these consequences made Canada the country it is today, and some of these consequences still affect us today and may affect us for years to come.